Good evening, everyone. Today will be looking into API testing with Postman. So we'll be looking at how we can do our test, carry out our testing using Postman. So firstly, let's look at what Postman is. What is Postman? Okay, Postman is an API, which stands for Application Programming Interface. Okay, API development tool that helps to build, test, and modify API. So we use Postman to build, test, and modify API. And to download Postman is very simple. So if you go on your browser, okay, and type API Postman testing, download Postman, or you enter this link, okay, https://www.postman.com/downloads. Okay, once you click on it, you'll get on this, you'll see this screen. So the next thing you need to do is to click on window if you're using a window device. Okay, if you're not using a window device, you will download which one that is compatible to Mac if you're using a Mac device. Okay, so once you've clicked on this, if you're using a window device, okay, it will download on your screen. It will download, then you can go on your, I won't download it now because I've done that before. So you can just follow the link, and once it's downloaded, then you can open it from your downloads. So once you've opened it from your downloads, the next thing you need to do is to set up your free account. If you want a free account, you set it up. Once you set it up, you enter your username and password and confirm that. Okay. Once you are done, okay, you will see yourself on here. You can either select, if you want a dark screen or a light screen. So as you can see, mine is a dark screen. So yeah, forget about, you won't have this here because these are all API tests that I've done in the past. So what you need to do next is to create your workspace. Okay, is to create your workspace. So for you to create your workspace, you will see, once you've downloaded yours, you will see this title bar here. Okay, you see your home, you see workspace, you see network. Okay, you also see your side, you will also see your side bar here. You'll see what you have here. So the first thing you need to do, okay, let me click on home. Okay, so yeah, home, this is, so once you've successfully downloaded your API, your Postman. So this is where you'll see yourself. Okay, once you have done successfully downloaded it. So today we'll look at the interface and what we can use API for, and some of the things that we can do with API. Okay, so this is home. Once you click on it, you will come on this screen. Okay, so where you don't have any test set up, you don't have anything set up. Okay, so looking at the side navigation, you can see create a team if you want to work, you want to add other people, other testers or developers or your team members to your Postman. Okay, you can create a team here using this. This is workspace. If you want to create workspace, you use this to create workspace as well. So you have your private API network if you want to set one up, integrations and reports. Okay, so you can also see some documentation to know what API, what Postman is. If you click on it, it will show you what Postman is. Okay, and Postman Enterprise, if your organization is looking into setting up a new Postman. If you want to get a Postman Enterprise, okay, click on this one. Okay, so you can see we have a REST API. So these are some Postman collection templates. So if you need a collection template, let's say you want to test a REST Sharp and you need a template for it, so you can click on this, you get a template. If you're looking for integration testing basics, so these are the templates. API documentation, you're looking to build API documentation, these are the templates. This is for authorization method, data visualization, API scenario testing. So you've got some of the templates here, and there are many more as well. So, but the first thing we want to do today is to create our workspace. So for every API project you're doing, you need a workspace. Okay, and to create your workspace, you click on here. Okay, I already have one workspace. Okay, so but we're going to create a new workspace today. So once you click on this workspace drop down and then click on create workspace. So once you click on create workspace, right, so you will see this blank page space. So you will see this. You can see blank workspace. Okay, so once you click on the blank workspace, okay, so once you click on this, you can click on next, right? So once you click on that, you click on next, then you can enter the name of your workspace. Okay, so let's enter the name of our workspace. Let's say let's enter Branchsoft soft, okay, API, Branchsoft API testing. So now we're looking at Branchsoft API testing as our workspace. So for now, it's going to be only me that will be able to access this workspace. Okay, you can also invite team member, but for you to invite team member, you have to upgrade your plan. Okay, you have to upgrade your plan to invite team member. Okay, so it's just going to be only me on this one. So I will click on create. I will click on create. So now that I've created this, now that I've created it, okay, yeah. So now that I've created it, the next thing I need to do, you can see my workspace. You can see PrimeSoft API testing is my workspace now. Okay, you can see this is a workspace. Right. So now the next thing we want to do is to create our collection. Okay, we need to create our collection. Looking at here, you can see create collection. So because we want to have all our tests in a particular collection under a particular workspace. So if we create our collection, let's say, for example, we want to do automate, because you can also do automation test, API automation testing using Postman, and you can run your entire collection and you can run an entire folder. So that's why you need to, just like in our UI testing, we'll set up our folder structure so that we can easily navigate, look for what test we've written. So that way you can also set up your API so that it makes sense. So the next thing we want to do is to set up our collection. Okay, we'll click on create collection. So we'll come here. Okay, we can name our collection. You can name our collection. From the collection, you still have different templates, okay, that you have. These are new, but we are setting up, we're going to set up an empty collection and then have our name our collection. So you can name your collection as let me say, I'll just use the same name, PrimeSoft API. Okay, PrimeSoft API. Yeah. So I'll just name it as PrimeSoft API. Okay, and then I'll click on enter. So you can see under API, under PrimeSoft API testing, we'll have a collection known as PrimeSoft API. So let's say, for example, you have different, your organization, you have different API that you're building. You can set up different collections. Okay, let's say we have Softbyt API. You can have under one workspace, you can have your collection, you can have Softbyt API as a collection, you can have PrimeSoft API as a collection. Okay, you can have different APIs, different collections. Okay, so now under our collection, you can start adding your requests, but we want to set up the folder structure. Okay, we want to set up that once in a situation where we'll set up a folder where we'll run all our, okay, let's look at our documentation, because sometimes the documentation will also help you to set up your folder. Okay, so let's look at our documentation that we'll be using. So we have user, we have list users, and we have registration, we have login. Okay, we have login. Yes, so we have registration, login, and user. Yeah. So if I go back, okay, that will help me to set up a folder. So I want to create a folder. Okay, so you click on, what I did was to click on this. If I hover around my collection, you can see my folder. You can see these three dots, three ellipses. You click on it, then you can see this drop down. You can see the things you can share, move, run collection, assuming that, yeah, we have API testing on our collection. You have run collection, you have create, generate test, you have edit, add request, add folder, monitor collection, more collection, create a fork, and so many other things you can do. You have duplicates as well. So you also have delete if you want to delete your collection. So what we're going to do is to add folder. We want to add folder. And the first folder we're going to add, I will name it as user. If you add it, if you click on it, you can see user here. I'll just name it as user. Okay. So that is the first folder I've got under my PrimeSoft API. Okay. So the next one you can also do is to add another folder, because we want to create a folder for all the API collection, all the tests that we're going to have. So we have the user. So all these things are user. So the next one we'll have is register and then login. So we want to create a folder for register and login. Okay, so let's close this and then open our API, open our Postman. So I want to add another folder from here. So, and this folder will now be, I will name it as register. Register. So every API testing will go, every API that has something to do with register will go under this register folder. So I can create another one. And I will call this login. Okay, you can see where I'm putting the name login. So create this and then I call it login. Okay, so now we've set up this folder structure. So you can see under each folder, under each one, under each one, you can see add request. Okay, so if we want to make any test any API under user, we will add the request here. Okay, so there are so many other things you can do. We are done with the collection. We set up our collection. We set up our folders. Okay, so you can see environment. Environment. We'll come to this later. So let's go ahead and make a request. Okay. Now, if you want to make a request, so you click on add a request. So I will now click on it, add a request. Now that I've clicked on add a request, it's asking me the request name. So let's say, for example, we have okay, an API the developers are done. We have a requirement to build an API. Okay, it has been committed into this into the sprints, and the business wants the development team to build an API that will get the list of all users. Okay, get the list of all users, and the BAs has written the story, giving a user an application. Giving a user has an endpoint. Okay, when a user make a get request, then the API will return the list of all users. Right? So we will have the base, the endpoint, the base URL and the endpoint. Okay, and we will make a get request. So, and we are expected to see the list of all the users. Okay, so and sometimes we will also have our expected response. So in this case, we have the endpoint. So this is the endpoint. This is the endpoint, and this is the base URL. And this is the base URL. So we'll copy it. Okay, so once we've copied it, then this is what we expected to return. Okay, once we've copied that, we can now go to our Postman, and here we'll enter the URL. Okay, we've entered the URL, as you can see. So we need to give our request a name, which is okay, which is a list of users. Okay, list of users. That's what we want to get. Okay, list of users. You can see get list of users. Right. So now, if you click on here, how you know the kind of request you make? Here, if you click on here, you will see different kind of requests that you make. You can see your get request, you can see your post request, you can see your put, patch, delete, head option. These are different kind of requests that we can make. So once we click on this, because what the request you're going to make is a get request, then we can click on send. So once we've done that, the API returns our, you can see. So this is where you check the status code. You need to make sure that the status code here is 200 OK, because that's what the requirement says. Okay, let me go here, click on here. So you can see the requirement says that the status code will be 200. Okay, and then this is the response that we're expecting. So we'll have page is 2, pay underscore page is 6, total is 12, and total underscore page is 12. Then we'll have data. And each data, okay, inside this array, we'll have ID, we'll have email address, we'll have first name as Michael Lawson, and email address. Oh, no, and this link, this image link. Okay, so if we go back to our Postman, you can see that we have response status code, which is 200. We have the time that it took for the API to return, okay, this response. You can see the response payload as well. So we have the page number, which is 2, page underscore pay underscore page, which is 6, total is 12, and the data inside the array, okay, I can see your hand, which is 7, email address, first name, last name, and this link. Yeah, we also have the automated side of it, where you can also write a test. Okay, you can also write a test. So we have, let me go through what we have here. We'll have authorization. Okay, let's say you have API key, okay, or you have sort of API key or authentication that you need, okay, before you are able to make the API request. You can see different kind of authentication. Okay, we have no auth, which is what we are using. We have basic authentication. We have barrier token. Okay, we have auth 1.0, and so on. We have API key. Okay, we've gone through this when we did the theory side of things. So the API key, the basic authentication barrier token are mostly used, okay, in an organization. So you can choose whichever one, and then you can impute whatever token the developer must have given you. Okay, so we also have the header as well. Sometimes they want you to validate the header. Okay, they want you to validate the header as well. So this is the header. Or sometimes they could have a header and they want you to add it. So this is where you add it. So we'll have body. So we'll talk about body, response, request body. If you have a request body, a payload, a request payload, this is where you add it. I'll show us how to add it. So if you want to have, this is the automation part of it, you have pre-request script. You want to run a pre-request script. This is where you add it. And then if you want to add your test as well, this is where you add it. Okay, so instead of manually coming to check is the ID equal to 7, and then you go to your requirements and check, oh, the ID is equal to should be 7, and the email address should be michael.lawson@regress.in. You check last name, first name is Michael. Instead of doing it manually, you can write a JavaScript code here to validate, so that once you're running, your test will pass. And if your test pass, then that means that all these things are here. Okay, we will look into that when we do the automation side of this, but today we'll just focus on the manual side and how to make different kind of requests. Okay, so that's it for a get request. Okay, so what we're going to do is that we're going to do another get request. Okay, let's go back to let's save this one, and we want to save this request that we've made. Okay, we won't have to vary it. What we'll do is I want to make another request. We'll come here, come to under user. Okay, click on these 3 ellipses and click on add request. I want to add another request. You've saved the other one. So when you run your collection, user folder, when you run user folder, all the tests under user folder will run. So the next one we want to do is, let's look at what we'll have next. We'll have single user. So we want to get the list of single user. If I click on this, you can see I want to get the list of single user. So this is our expected result. We are expecting status code to be 200, and this is the data we are expecting to have. So the data we're expecting to have is data ID will be 2, email address will be Janet. Okay, we'll have first name as Janet, we'll have last name as Weaver, and this is the avatar or the image request. Now, this is our expected result. You will have it, okay, when you are doing your testing. The developer or the BA will provide it, or the business will provide it. Okay, they will also provide you with your requests, with your endpoint and your base URL. So now let's make this request. Okay, so this is a request. This is our endpoint and our base URL. Okay, when we make the request, this is what we're expecting. This is our expected results. Okay, so let's go to our Postman and make the request. So what we'll do is first we'll enter paste it here. Okay, once I've done that, I will make sure that the request is get, and I will make sure I name the name of the request properly, which is single user. Single user. Okay, then the next thing I will do is to send. If I send, okay, you can see what I will be looking at: the response status code, and I want to make sure that the ID is 2, email address, okay, is Janet, first Janet.Weaver@regress. We want to make sure that the first name is Janet and the last name is Weaver, and this one as well. Okay, so this is okay. That is what I'm expecting. So what I will do is to save. Okay, I will save that. So that is how to do our get request. So I will move over to the post. Okay, so to make a post request, we'll go on that documentation as well to see which of them is post. So I'll go on the documentation. You can see this one is post, which is create. I'll just click on it. So once I click on it, it's saying that we need to create a user. Okay, we want to create a user. So when we want to create a user, this is the request and this is the response. So the response I'm expecting is 201 created. And once I create it, okay, using this payload, I would have a response that the name matches with what name that I'm using and the job matches with what job that I'm creating. And then it will give it an ID and time of creation, the created time. Okay, so I'll just click on this, copy the base URL and the endpoint, and then go on my Postman. So this is under register. So I'll have to create a request under register. So, and I will name my request create a user. Okay, and then I will enter my base URL and my endpoints. The request I'm going to make is a post request. Okay, you see, I've changed it to a post request. So post request would have a request payload, and the request payload was given to us there. So this is the request payload. This is what we want to create. The request payload is this. So that is the request payload. This is the request payload. I've copied it. So when I go to my Postman, I want to paste the request payload. So how to do that is you will come to body, click on body. Once you click on body, okay, you want to click, you can see none what format you want to paste. You can see none, you can see form data, you can see as www form URL encoded. So you want to click on raw. You want to click on this. Check this raw. So once you check raw, you want to make sure, because it's a REST API, you want to make sure that it's in JSON. You're pasting it in JSON format. If it's, you can see JSON, you want to make sure that it's in JSON format. Okay. So click JSON, it's in JSON format. Then all we'll do is to paste our request payload. So once we've pasted our request payload, okay, the next thing you need to do is to click on send. When you click on send, what we're trying to do now is we're trying to create a user that the name will be Morphos and the job title will be leader. Okay, so once we click on send, we can see the status code is what? 201 created, means it has been successfully created. And we want to make sure that the ID, you can see ID, name is this, job is leader, and ID is this, and the time of creation. You can see, if you look at what time it is now, okay, if you look at the dates and the time, okay, I think because of where this is hosted, it's a bit, I think it's 1 hour behind. But you can see we'll have 2037. Okay, if you check our own, it will be 2138. So because of where it's hosted, it's 1 hour behind. Anyway, so yeah, you can see it's created. So that is how to do a post call. So all you need to do is to save as well. Once you save, you make sure that this is created. Okay, so let me do one more post request as well. So for us to do another post request, we will go back to our documentation as well. Go back to our documentation, and okay, we'll have only, okay, this is another post request for registration. So we'll have one post request for register. Okay, once we click on it, we have this endpoint. This is the register. So once we register with this request payload, once a user has registered, what we're going to have is an ID, which is equal to 4, and a token, which will give us this. And the response payload will be, the response status will be 200. This is our expected. Okay, so let's go and make that request and get our actual. So like I told you, the first thing we'll do is to get our endpoint. Once we get our endpoint, we can, this is under register. This one we did is under user. So it's under user. Let's move it to user. If I want to move it, just to move it is copy it and put it here. You see, I've moved it. It's saying one request has been moved. So I've moved it. I just clicked on it, drag it to the user because I'm creating a user. So it should fall under user folder. So the next one I'm going to do is register. So it should be under register folder. Okay. So I'll add this and then put the endpoint. So once I've entered the endpoint, I will change the request. Okay. So the request I want to make is a post request. Know that I will click on the body because it's a post request. Every post request must have a request payload. Great. Yeah. So I'll click on raw. And it's in JSON. Please take note of this because if you are sending it in another format, it will not work. Okay, unless they've given you your request as a test. But REST API is usually request and response is usually in JSON format. Okay, so what I will need to do is to go and copy because what I'm doing is post, a successful post. Okay, I'll go and copy the request payload. Please take note of this response body. The expected response body ID is 4, and then it has a token, and the response status code will be 200. Okay, so once I go there, I come back here and I paste this. So if I paste it, the next thing I need to do is to just send. Once I've sent, you can see the ID is 4 and this is the token, and the response is 200. Okay, yeah. So I have to enter the name, okay, which is register. Okay, you can see register. I'll just put that post register. Yeah. Yeah. Then save. Always remember to save. Okay, so let's look for make one post call for an unsuccessful one. So you see the different status code because all this one we've been doing is successful one. So let's look for an unsuccessful one. let's go back to that documentation. You can see unsuccessful post. This is unsuccessful. This one is unsuccessful. When I click on it, you can see. So because it's unsuccessful, what we are getting, the response we are supposed to get is 400, and the response body will be error, missing password. So this is the request payload. Okay. So what this means is, if someone is trying to register, let's go back to our page. If you are trying to register a user and you haven't entered, just like the successful one, you've entered email address and haven't entered password, it will not register successfully. Okay, so we can create another request. Remember, I said to create another request, you come here, you click on these three ellipses, you click on add request. Yeah, once you click on add request, the next thing you need to do is, okay, change the kind of request you want to make, which is a post request. So our endpoint will be this, and then we'll have to paste our request body, which is this. This is our request body. And when we make this call, we're getting a missing password, and the status code is 400 bad request. That is what we're expecting anyway. So this has passed. So we'll now name it properly as unsuccessful register. That's the unsuccessful registration, basically. Okay. So I'll save. So that's how to make, we've made a post request as well. The next thing we need to do is to make, what is our documentation? Is to make a patch request. So we'll make one patch request and one delete. Okay, so to make a delete request, and this is still under user, it's still under user. So we'll click on this. So for a patch request, it has this patch request. This is a patch request, which is to update user. It has a request. It has a request payload. Okay, so we want to update, and this is it. This is the request payload. We'll go back. We'll go to our Postman, and under user, we want to add another request, which is add another request, and we want to paste our body. So because we've copied the body, so this is our body. We want to enter the request type, which is patch, and we want to enter the endpoint. So this is the endpoint. So when we make that request, you can see 200, okay, and it's been updated. So let me show you the difference now. So when we made this request to get a single user, the same endpoint, the single user that we got that is on the server, his first name is Janet and the second last name is Weaver. Now we've patched, okay, we've patched. Where's that request that we just made now, which is this one? So we've patched the request, okay, to change the name to Morphos and the job to, okay, no, let me just save this first. So this is the user we created, okay. We created this user and the name is Morphos and the job title is leader. We've updated it, okay, here from job title leader to Zion resident. So that's what we just did. And the name will be update user.
So to update is to patch.
Yes, to patch. Okay, so we have other ones as well, such as delete, and we have put as well. So patch and updates, and patch and put are to updates as well. Okay. So the next one will have delete. So delete will give you 204 deleted when it's successful. Okay. So delete doesn't have any request payload. Okay, let's do delete. User is 2. So to do delete and it's still under user, you come here as well. You come here as well, add request. Once we add a request, the next thing we want to do is choose on delete, enter the URL, which is this, and we want to click. So we want to delete user. Delete user. Okay, so once we save and send, it will return 204, no content. it means that this particular user has been deleted from the server. So normally, if you make a GET request using this URL, you won't see anything because it's been deleted in a place of work. But this is a demo website, so yeah, that might not be the case. Okay, so the next thing we want to do is we're going to cover that here. So the next thing we're going to look into in our next meeting will be how to, instead of repeating this base URL, okay, we can save it in our environment. We can have it here, name it in our environment, okay, global environment here, and we can create an environment. This is not environment. We can create environment, and then we can have this base URL saved, and we can always use it. Okay, let's say you have live environment, dev environment. You can configure it. You can create environment, configure it here, and you will be using it. And the next thing, after that, we also want to see how we can automate this response. Okay, we want to automate this response. We have some level of snip code. No, not this one. Not this one. So if I go to test, okay, you have some snippets, some code snippets that we can use to validate some of the response. Okay, if I click on this, you can see this Postman request written in JavaScript. Okay, so let me go back to our collection. So you can see postman.test, okay, status code. You can see the function. Then postman.respond to have status code 200. So if I run this, it will fail. If I run it, it will fail. Reason being that, let me run it so you see what I mean. If I run this, the test will fail. Do you know why the test has failed? Because the code says that this test that I've written here says that the status code, that the postman respond to have status code 200, but the status code is 400. So what I'm going to have here is to say postman respond to have status code of 40204. Okay, if I run it now, it will pass. So you can do other validations here. You can do other validations. So just like the one we also did, okay, we can also go to test as well and say use the same, which is to check, the status code is 200. If I run this because I'm expecting status code of 200, my test will pass as well. Okay, so we'll look at how you can also write a more custom JavaScript code, okay, to validate all this response as well. Okay, you can do that. So yeah, that's where we'll draw it and line for today. Do you have any question?